you've had encounters with hostile, predatory I said, what do you think of that? And he says, well, I don't agree with Dr. Greer's perspective. And, you know, I've been reaching, you know, going back to 1969 for my testimony, but ever since the National Press Club, and I saw, being an ex-A newsman, I saw what happened. It led me into deep research, and I've been researching many witness testimonies, people who have high credentials, you know, William Tompkins, Phil Snyder. There's a lot of people who come forward and have identified that, you know, my personal belief, the vast majority of them are either benign or beneficial or benevolent. But there are some that are not that friendly. So, you know, to say that there's no hostile or predatory extraterrestrials is not exactly accurate in my view. The other thing was that, you know, ever since the Grenada Treaty in 1954, after Eisenhower met previously with Nordic extraterrestrials that wanted us to relinquish our nuclear weapons, and they warned us about the other race, that you can't trust them. You know, it's just kind of interesting in researching the documents like, you know, MJ-12 documents back in 1952, where the Vatican was working with MJ-12 and containment. The Vatican didn't want this information out. They wanted to have containment. And so that was 1952. So when 1954 came around, at that first contact meeting with Eisenhower, they had scientists, clergymen, metaphysicians. They had different people from different walks of life to see what the reaction would be to the contact with these beings. And Cardinal Francis McIntyre, who, you know, everybody was sworn to secrecy, he immediately flew to the Vatican and spilled the beans to the Pope. And, you know, I've been researching the connection with secret societies, you know, such as the Freemasons, Knights of Malta, and like that, with, you know, some people in high positions of intelligence, presidents, and have been. And Eisenhower was as kind of a, you know, that kind of serves the Vatican. And so it was revealed that in May of 1954, Eisenhower wanted to have public disclosure on radio and television. But it appears that there was a conflict that happened. And I think the Vatican intervened, and so we didn't have disclosure back in 1954. You know, and there's so much happened during the President Eisenhower's administration, where, you know, he wasn't brought in that in 1955 there was somewhat of a surrender agreement that was made with the Nazi SS and their alliance with this extraterrestrial race that, you know, Professor Herman Oberth said, you know, you had help from people from other worlds. You have to imagine, you know, a race that shares the ideologies of the Nazi SS, you know, being, you know, benevolent. I don't know, you know, they have this ideologies of eugenics and slave labor and, you know, master race, you know, severely racist. So, you know, there were certain elements that were left out. It was actually because of the loss of control during President Eisenhower's administration that actually led to the 2001 National Press Club event. Because every single president, CIA directors, and heads of intelligence, you know, going all the way back to Eisenhower, has been denied access. And it was because of the head of intelligence, Joint Chiefs of Staff, you know, Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson. He was denied access in his legal constitutional authority, and he told Dr. Greer, you know, you get your people together that are willing to testify under oath and go you have my permission to go before the mainstream media. This group is illegal, unquote. And so that's what basically launched the 2001 event that I was, one of 20 witnesses that each one of us stated were willing to testify under oath. But these testimonies, got completely sanitized by the mainstream media, and and it continues to today because the Nazi SS, set up with the Bilderberg meetings and the 6 corporations that control all of the mainstream media that moves toward their agenda, which is, toward a new world order.
I do want to get into what your thoughts are.
You guys, let me go ahead and just, sorry to cut you off, Kenny. Let me just open the show real quick so we can give a couple introductions and a little bit of news before you guys dive deeper. I know we started a little bit early for you guys who came on, and Dan has been digging in already. He's also shared an article that he's working on about the new movie out, The Cosmic Hoax. But I just want to welcome everyone tonight to this evening's Exo Metaverse call. And I wanted to thank New Realities for hosting us as well on their YouTube. And I wanted to thank also Kenny, who's here from CE5. CE5, sorry, Kenny, let me get you pinned real quick. CE5 report and beyond. And we've been working with Kenny for many months. We've been working on a mapping project that will take all of the work that we're doing in all our various organizations and get it on a really powerful map. Again, Exo Metaverse's mission as a nonprofit is to provide software, high-tech software for this movement, to give some software into the network so that we can be stronger together. And we're so excited about your work, Kenny. Thank you for being part of our consortium. And we look forward to having you host tonight's interview with Dan about the report that's come out and other topics. So I just want to welcome everyone. I also want to welcome, I noticed Ann Jan and a couple new members, so welcome. Thanks for supporting the organization. Also see that Mark Sims on the call. He's going to be doing a big show on Saturday night, tomorrow night, for Saturday Night Live, and he's going to be announcing some exciting things about the harmonic convergence that's going to be later this month. So stay tuned to that. It's going to be a really important event for our community where all the people can get together, we can share information and really move things forward. And Mark, do you want to say anything about that real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let me throw you up here.
All right.
Okay. There you are.
So, hi everyone. We're having a special edition of Saturday Night Alive, and we've got this amazing panel of guests, including Danny Sheehan, Stephen Bassett will be joining us. We've got Whitley Strieber, Alan Steinfeld, and a handful of others. The real centerpiece of this show is going to be a 3-part discussion between myself, Danny, and Steve Bassett to talk about the UAP report that's coming out July 12th and the upcoming event. So I'm doing the Harmonic Convergence 2021 event. We're calling it the Making Contact Convocation. And we'll be announcing exactly the dates for that, which are set in stone now for August 18th to the 22nd. So we're doing a 5-day program on the observation deck, which we'll have a big announcement about that as well. There's some big news coming out about the observation deck and about the New Paradigm Institute joining forces. It'd be premature for me to say anything at this point, but the bottom line is that we're going to have a permanent virtual National Institute, a global institute. And one of the strategic initiatives of the New Paradigm Institute will be to establish a global citizens diplomacy program. And this 5-day event, this convocation, will feature speakers and panelists and other thinkers that will have a discussion about how do we go about as a citizenry making a serious effort at establishing diplomatic relations with extraterrestrials. So we'll be having this discussion in public on an open forum on this virtual platform, and it's going to be exciting. We're going to have some very cool people.
Great, thank you. Oh,
You're
great.
muted.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark, for all that you're doing. Just amazing. And we look forward to your event tomorrow night and also your institution. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so I just wanted to remind anybody who's joining from Zoom or joining from YouTube that you can join us on Zoom by going to this bit.ly/exo hangout. And you can come on in. We're going to have breakout sessions for everyone to talk in. So if you want to come on in and you're watching live from YouTube, there's the link. So tonight's show, like I said, is going to be hosted by Kenny from CE5 Contact and Beyond. I also wanted to tell you one more piece of news before we get started. Thanks for your patience, Dan and Kenny. I know you have a lot of things to talk about tonight. ET Let's Talk is doing their monthly CE5 event tomorrow night. I've shared some links. They're doing, you can also report contact if you've had it. It's going to show up on the map. The links are in the chat there. So Dan has, as he explained, he was one of the expert military witnesses and in the National Press Club, and he's done a lot of research. He has a big website that has a lot of information as well. And I'm gonna share both the information for CE5 Citizen Report and for Dan's website as well in the chat. So welcome everyone tonight, and go ahead, Kenny, and kick it off with your questions.
Thank you, Zinga. So yeah, Dan, this is really a follow-up interview for us. We got into a lot of this in our last discussion in terms of disclosure then and now. And I want to get a little bit into a little bit more detail in terms of your knowledge and your experience, but mainly like in addition to the UAP report that I want to go over, this lovely piece of parchment. I'd love to discuss citizen disclosure versus government disclosure, the ET and human relationship, and then if we have time, your take on free energy and what you've experienced there. So just continuing on with what we were already talking about in terms of the recent documentary on the Cosmic Hoax, and we had talked about Mark McCandlish and the current technology that he had testified to witnessing, actually drawn up, actually. But do you want to expand on that? Because the documentary, I enjoyed it and I liked it, but they did fall short of mentioning, Mark McCandlish and his recent death.
Yeah, I made friends with Mark before we went to the National Press Club. We were sitting at the bar and he knew I had a good technical background, went over all the operations of the alien reproduction vehicle. These were the antiques back in the 1950s. We have, it was just kind of interesting that, it was just less than a week after Mike Truber reverses his testimony publicly. He says, oh yeah, the Tic Tac that was made by, Lockheed, it was part of the U.S. Air Force's secret space program. That testimony, along with Mark McCandish's, would have completely destroyed. There was like 3 elements that the movie brought out. One was, we do not know what these UFOs are. Well, we do know what these UFOs are, such as he passed away, Clifford Stone already categorized 57 different species by 1989. So we know what they are. Number 2, the U.S. military does not have any aircraft that can perform in a way these UFOs maneuver. And as you can see, Mark's rendering here of the exhibit at Norton Air Force Base back in 1988. These could go faster than the speed of light. And this was, we had achieved anti-gravity by October of 1950, 20 years after Nazi Germany had achieved anti-gravity in 1934. And this is how they were able to have technological and therefore military superiority, which led to Operation High Jump and the defeat of Admiral Byrd. And number 3, that they're a threat to national security. Well, obviously, we're all here, and it's been centuries that we haven't had flying saucers come in and blowing up cities and stuff. I would like to propose that, if a predatory race may not be doing things outwardly and maybe doing things covertly, such as using the human race for a resource, you have to consider that in Project Paperclip, they brought over Xavier Dorsch, which was Hitler's mastermind, underground structures, which they started building under the U.S. underground plant program in New Mexico back in 1946. These massive, deep underground military bases, of which there's hundreds, interconnected. And that, according to the JFK files that got released in 2017, Adolf Hitler was alive and well in Argentina, and Heinrich Himmler, according to forensic experts, never took the cyanide gap. And according to Albert Speer, who was Hitler's armaments minister, he said that Himmler wanted to have an empire of slaves. And this was a key component of the Nazi ideologies. And it could be that the millions of people that are missing, that go without a trace, that, and you have to consider that, people are just becoming aware of the huge amount of human trafficking that's being done on this planet. That they could be using humans as a resource, and they could be using, off-planet trafficking as well. So, to say that there's, because we don't have flying saucers coming in and blasting our cities doesn't mean that we could not be subjected to elements that are doing things covertly that have been hidden. And you have to consider that they wanted to have, as is explained in the movie, full spectrum dominance. They had a plan to infiltrate into the United States, as documents showed before the end of World War II, to create a matrix of perception, to control education, which they did in 1946 and rewrote the history books. They did in 1950 with Operation Mockingbird, took control of the mainstream media. And 1951, all the evil alien movies, they started with The Day the Earth Stood Still, which wasn't really an evil alien movie. It was more of a, kind of a warning.
Yeah, close the nukes down before we blow ourselves up and stop fighting with each other.
Right. Or this earth of yours will be burned, reduced to a burned out cinder, as he said. So they created this full spectrum dominance. You're talking about science. They took in high positions of the pharmaceutical corporations, as William Tompkins revealed. You know, they took over NASA, essentially. My fellow witness, Donna Hare, said that the astronauts are sworn to secrecy what happened when we went to the moon in 1969, and that they're purposely airbrushing out the UFOs before they release them to the public. You have to consider that if they had anti-gravity back in 1934, the Fourth Reich, then the entire thing with NASA was basically, there was two programs. One was the outward program that made us believe that we needed rockets in order to overcome the gravitational pull of the Earth, which they've already figured out the torsion physics of anti-gravity. And behind the scenes, all this money was going into the secret space programs. And the Nazi SS that had their operations in Antarctica were using slave labor in violation of the Antarctic Treaty. There's all these elements. That answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, it does. So, which would you have it on, citizen disclosure or government disclosure? Let me just take that and throw that question out for everybody that's joining us. And you can answer in chat, of course, but I just want to give me a raise of hands if anybody is in vote for citizen disclosure versus citizen disclosure. Gotta raise my hand. Okay. And those, which would you, for those, government disclosure? Okay.
Are you able to get an actual head count on this vote going on right now?
I am not, but
I could set up.
I just want to get a feel for where we're at.
I could set
Does
up
anyone,
a poll.
how about both? Is there anybody that would go for both? Do you think both?
I would just like to suggest something before you put something like this to a vote. There needs to be a discussion. I think maybe a pro-con discussion on whether it be government versus citizen. I have strong feelings about my own position on this. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I have strong feelings that before a vote would be put to a group like this, I like an opportunity to share my own opinions, and I'd like to hear from somebody on the other side of the debate.
Agreed. Okay. And what are your feedback?
Well, we had disclosure back in 20 years ago, but we have an inflated, controlled mainstream media. After we were on all the networks on CNN, CBS wanted to do a one-on-one interview, and I said, I saw what CNN did with it. I said, I'm not willing to do this unless I could say we have these scientists that are willing to go before an open congressional hearing and put it on the table, show we have 0-point energy. We haven't needed the need for nuclear, oil, and coal for like 70 years. Promise up and down, and apparently she was new at this, and so I'm sorry the executives made me cut that part out. Now, when you understand the structure of control, it's somewhat of a pyramid. You have people at the very, very top that are giving the talking points, giving the trickles down into the network executives that control the media outlets, and the people who, Project Veritas has been doing an incredible job, pointing out CBS, CNN, ABC, NPR, all, and showing how the newspaper reporters are being censored on not revealing certain things, and they have to fit a certain narrative, such as this one with CBS, I believe. She met with his doctors, and the doctors were having incredible success with hydroxychloroquine, and the program manager says, we can't have that. That doesn't, it basically doesn't fit the narrative. And so when you consider you have this pyramidal structure that's controlling the disclosure, trying to disclose at the lower levels basically gets nipped off at the bottom, you could say, unless there's decapitation at the higher levels. It's my hope that from what research I've done with witnesses and secret space program, and that have indicated that when Eisenhower lost control, he set up a secret U.S. Marine Corps intelligence unit that would act as a safeguard in the future if our constitutional republic was ever threatened in the future. I think certain things that happened, such as 9/11 and so forth, activated these operations behind the scenes. And the fact that back some time ago, Admiral Mike Rogers, they took the white hats, I guess you could say, took control of the NSA. And so if you have the NSA, you have control of massive surveillance capability that would have the goods on all these people who are the players of this dark cabal, you could say. And that you have to consider there's how many now? I think it's 300,000 sealed indictments, all this, in the background. And, they had planned on, the Bilderberg meetings had planned on having Hillary as president, but, they didn't expect her to lose.
I don't know.
But, plans changed, and now they've got their assets back in control. And so now they're trying to make up for lost time, because their agenda is to basically destroy the constitutional republic of the United States, as everybody might be noticing, in the news and things. And so, this may be a period that we're going through where the public needs to see this with their own eyes, in order to understand that there is an agenda here that is against the American people. And that, so when, say, tribunals happen in the future, everybody will be on the same page. I'm hoping that is the case, because, us little people, we can use the power of our creative minds and visualize. I'm a big believer in the collective morphogenic field that we're all connected to, and seeing a positive outcome and doing what we're doing here, and each of us in our own way, contributing to the awareness, which is expanding. None of us are disconnected, we're all interconnected. And so each of us is contributing to this global awakening, so to speak. But, to try to attack it from the bottom of the pyramid, it just hasn't been happening. As long as they control the upper parts, it's like it's that pyramidal structure that, it's like the chain of command in the military.
Yeah, to an extent, but if we stand up, the more of us that stand up and create an awareness in terms of making positive contact and what the, a little bit more of the reality to get a broader scope of the picture. I'd love to get into your personal experiences with CE5 when we get into, exploring the human and ET relationship. But with regards to disclosure, just to kind of reel you back in, in terms of the UAP report. Now, from what I understand in this report, we have, it's all from aviators, military aviators, what data they did collect. And I get that the current narrative is kind of framed around giving the public a new target. So what are your thoughts in terms of, can you give us a sense on what was disclosed in 2001 from yourself as well as your co-testifiers and witnesses versus what came out of this report? Like, what do you?
I made a meme for that. It's a good question. I'm just going to bring it up so I have it as a reference here. I call the meme UFO UAP public disclosure now and then on June 25th. Basically, from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the unclassified portion, they said basically it's either airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, United States government industry or development programs, foreign adversary systems, like Russia or China, or other. This was basically what was disclosed that everybody's been, waiting for all this time, when 20 years ago, the witnesses, which I was one, willing to testify under oath, we stated that we had proof that our legal is being denied access, that illegal black projects are taking in $1 trillion, that zero-point energy solutions eliminate completely the need for, these dangerous polluting technologies that
gas
and coal.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-gravity craft were fully developed back in the 1950s, that a base exists on the far side of the moon. Astronauts are sworn to secrecy what happened when they went to the moon, at NASA obscuring ET craft images before releasing them to the public. 57 different ET species had already been cataloged by 1989. The ET craft have shut down our nuclear ICBM bases. The US Navy is reporting spacecraft coming out of our oceans. That was my testimony. And planned future false flag events with the terrorists being next, which was omitted on the movie, followed by rogue missions, asteroids, and aliens. This is what was disclosed like 20 years ago. But what the media did, like say CNN, for example, they set out with, oh, is there life on other planets? Some people think they have proof there is. Elaine Tihanna explains, and it goes on saying, we want to have a congressional hearing, basically, simply on the reality of UFOs, completely omitting these explosive testimonies that essentially reveal that there is an infiltration of illegal operations operating within our government that have withheld from humanity these earth-saving solutions.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to hear you talk more about the zero-point energy solutions. We're going to put everybody in breakout groups right now. So for those of you who have not participated in Exo Metaverse, this is your chance to go into a small breakout group, talk about your contact, talk about some of the controversial things that we're talking about on tonight's show. Where do you stand on them? What do you think? You're going to assign a timekeeper to your group, and that person is going to give 5 minutes to each person. That person shouldn't necessarily be interrupted. If they want feedback, they can ask for it. But everyone will get that 5 minutes. If you don't want to go into the breakout groups and you want to stay here in the main interview with Ken, and you can do that. And I know that people have been asking if they can ask questions. You can put questions in. We'll do that in the 30 minutes. I'm going to break stream that we have going out right now live because we're going to make some adjustments. So we're going to be restarting that in a moment. So if you're in a breakout room, hold on for just 1 or 2 minutes while we get everyone settled and moved around, and then you guys can start. So again, if you want to go to the breakout group, you can do that now. If not, just stay here in the main interview. But don't feel like you're going to miss out on anything. We will publish the full recording of this interview, so you'll be able to see that later. Okay, so here we go. And Ken, you're good to go. You guys should not join breakout groups. Just stay here with us, Dan and Kenny, and you guys can continue to talk about 0 point or whatever. Okay.
I'll stay here.
Okay.
So I understand your personal. Some people may not agree with your views or my views or what have you, but putting all, looking at all of that on the shelf, as it were, what personal experiences, and you were one of the original, original military witnesses to talk about UFOs, a UFO coming out of the ocean, which was documented. You came across this transmission with your clearance. So can you tell us some other personal experiences that kind of open you up to the rabbit hole before you?
Yeah, sure. I had a high-level top-secret clearance, and basically I received a message, and I was a high-speed coder operator, and we received a message